Extra family, it is our rendezvous time and it's good to be here. I hope the weather at your end is as cool as the one here in the nation's capital. Anyway, however the weather is, the news extra package tonight is truly extra. We start with national development as the president inaugurates committee which has hit the ground running. We also have a special tonight on power tariff and fuel price increase you won't want to miss. Peace and efforts to keep the peace are prominent in tonight's package, even as the military kills one of the most wanted gang leaders in Benue State. International flights have returned. How is it going? Find out here. All these plus a lot more you wouldn't want to miss. So let me not keep you wondering for long. After all, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. I am Fatima Umarbuba, and this is News Extra. You're welcome once again. A high-powered steering committee that will chart a new course for Nigeria's National Development Plan has been inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari. The committee is to prepare the nation's medium-term National Development Plan 2021-2025, as well as Agenda 2050, to succeed Nigeria Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The President described the task as vital towards the transformation of the nation's economic fortunes. And State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has the details.
The current global health and economic crisis give us an opportunity to think afresh and chart an optimal path forward.
And as Nigeria Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan lapse in the next 3 months, President Muhammadu Buhari said it is imperative to ensure continuity and efficiency through what he called a truly consultative, participatory and inclusive development planning process.
The main objectives of these successor plans are to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within the next 10 years, particularly given the World Bank's projection that Nigeria will become the world's third most populous country by 2050 with over 400 million people. It is my expectation that the steering committee will oversee the execution of key deliverables, including recommending measures to ensure the continuous implementation of the plans even after the expiration of the tenure of successive administrations, including legislation if required.
Such legislation, he said, may introduce the much-needed rigor and discipline to the nation's development planning, as well as institutionalize planned outcomes for a sustainable future.
I trust that our partners in the National Assembly will support us in exploring these reforms. The successor plans must, therefore, be designed to sustain national development as well as support our regional and global strategic interests as outlined in the African Union Agenda.
The steering committee will comprise, amongst others, one governor each from the 6 geopolitical zones, representatives of the National Assembly, major political parties, captains of industry, labor organizations, traditional and religious leaders, as well as people with special needs. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Samshuna Ahmed, is co-chairing the committee alongside Mr. Atedo Peterside, representing the private sector.
The African continent is gradually becoming borderless. It is only the countries that plan and translate their plans into action that are likely to get the greatest impact. To this end, I envisage that the new plans will also focus on addressing these binding constraints that have impeded the much desired industrialization and transformation of our economy.
As steering committee members, our pledge is that we will work as a team, do everything to put our best foot forward, in this important national assignment. So help us God.
Both the National Assembly and representatives of the various political parties in Nigeria reassured Nigerians that they will indeed stand to be counted in this onerous task of achieving a greater Nigeria.
Our interest in National Assembly largely is to ensure that at the end of the day, the product on the table is not just a plan of the federal government, but a plan for the people of the Federation.
With the inclusion of political parties in what we're seeing today, the difference is going to be very clear. We're always ready to work for the good of this nation, such that generations unborn will remember this day.
With the nation's various sub-regions recently pursuing different economic cooperation within their respective geographical areas, the newly inaugurated steering committee says it is committed to developing new national development plans that will take into consideration the comparative advantages available in these regional blocks towards achieving a virile Nigeria. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Solving the challenges of power and enhancing alternative energy, as well as considering a gradual switch to digital economy, are some of the major thematic areas of focus for the long and medium-term National Development Plan. Minister of State, Budget and National Planning, Clem Agba, revealed this during an inaugural meeting of the National Steering Committee for the National Development Plan of the country in Abuja. Chimobi Walter Naji reports.
The National Development Plan aims at diversifying the economy, reducing poverty, creating jobs and wealth, and ensuring infrastructural development, among others. Now, this is the 5th National Development Plan for the country, which helps Nigeria achieve global growth agenda. Working with the private sector, the plan will serve as a bottom-up national development plan for the country, carrying all sectors and concerns along in development of a true national plan that will reflect the Nigerian realities.
I want to say that the new plans that we are planning to embark on will also be focusing on addressing those binding constraints that have impeded the much desired industrialization and transformation of our economy. Emphasis will therefore be placed on technology acquisition, technology adaptation, research and development, and sectors that the macroeconomic frameworks have identified already, as reported by my colleague, as growth and revenue drivers.
We are concerned with deepening participation of all stakeholders in the development of the new plans. We are indeed committed to producing truly Nigerian national development plans and not just federal government of Nigerian plans. At the moment, we are in the process of engaging the grassroots through the states and the local government in the planning process, which shall take place via town hall meetings with memoranda from town development associations and traditional rulers.
And then let me also say that I'm among those who believe that the only time you are going to succeed in breaking the back of this stubborn camel called Nigeria is when the economy is in a terrible shape. During an oil boom, you're wasting your time.
The medium-term National Development Plan will be due by February 2021. In Abuja, Chimobi Walter Naji, NTA News.
Like two unwanted but necessary visitors, they announced their new price tags at the same time, leaving their host, that is the consumers, to groan. Tariff for electricity up, and petrol now above 160 naira per litre. So what are the issues that prompted this rise, or should I say this visit? Mayor Ogidi engaged some experts for explanations.
Nigeria, a country with an estimated population of about 200 million people, fuel consumption is between 40 and 57 million litres on a daily basis. The National Bureau of Statistics, in its 2019 report, reveals that Nigeria consumed about 20.8 billion litres of fuel A breakdown of this figure shows that about 57 million liters of fuel was consumed on a daily basis, and the federal government paid a subsidy of about 595 billion naira. So, in a country where the population is growing faster than the economy, the federal government was frontal in telling subsidy that coming and going these several seasons do stay out of the nation's treasury.
The truth of the matter is that subsidizing fuel is no longer feasible.
It is no longer feasible, so petrol and electricity go for self-funding. Despite the increase, the filling station never goes quiet. The price of fuel has experienced 10 major adjustments. In 2000, for instance, the price of fuel was 22 naira per liter. Now it's 160 in 2020. As the consumer cries over the price, the federal government also gets scared of the treasury, as over 10.4 trillion naira is paid as subsidy in 14 years.
People are going to be building refineries near the borders so that they are able to buy subsidized fuel and then take it outside the country where there are no subsidies. So how does that run? Is it poor people that run filling stations?
Now, subsidy out, deregulation in. Free market for those fit to play, while the federal government assumes the position of a referee.
Nigeria ranks among the top 7 cheapest country with petroleum products. So the government must redefine PPPR's responsibility.
Like a man fighting two enemies at the same time, federal government closes the subsidy files for the payment of power supply. Files that contained approval of about 1.7 trillion naira in just 4 years. And the year 2020 is still counting, and the treasury is already bleeding.
The subsidy on energy alone for 2020 is put at 540 billion naira. I mean, COVID has affected us. Look at what happened in the international oil market. It affected us seriously. So government fund has reduced. Therefore, let's bring in private equity. As a matter of fact, that is one of the things that led to privatization.
So, federal government invokes the powers of the multi-year tariff order. Tariff now moves from cost reflective to service reflective. A kilowatts per hour is now 66 and not 22.
Well, as a matter of fact, there is in the MITO, there is the multi-year tariff order had said that every 5 years and every 6, there should be a major change in the tariff.
2 challenges, 1 solution. That is the removal of subsidy in fuel and that of electricity. But the question is, will this be the final nail on the coffin of subsidy in the country? That is the question many are asking. And if this will be the solution, how this money that removed from fuel subsidy can be reinvested in other sectors of the economy for the well-being of the masses. Mie Ogidi, NTA News.
And we'll take you to Kaduna now, where an all-inclusive Southern Kaduna Peace Summit has commenced with a resolve by stakeholders for sincere deliberations aimed at unraveling the myth and realities behind the protracted communal violence in the area for lasting peace. Convener of the summit and Executive Secretary, Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, Reverend Yakubu Pan, is optimistic that the summit, first of its kind, will pave the way to recoup intercommunal trust and harmony. Major Adamu has the report.
Participants at the summit reflect the ethno-religious composition of the environment and were invited based on their capacity to offer sincere workable inputs, as well as influence on agreed course of action that may lead to breaking the protracted cycle of violence. Convener of the summit, Reverend Yakubu Pam, stresses that the project, which has the blessings of the Kaduna State government, is a starting point of a continuing process that will be upheld through committees that will be set up to drive the initiative anchored on mutual respect and consensus.
We are just here to create a platform, and this platform will be sustained. Once in a while, they'll be coming here and discuss and proffer solutions, because I know that new revelations about the cases will be waking up from time time.
Co-chairman of the occasion, General Martin Luther Agwai, retired, represented by Mr. Dare Akau, and Air Vice Marshal Muhammad Dabo, retired, say it's high time the diverse communities in southern Kaduna said enough to the senseless killings and recurring violence that spare nobody. They commend the conveners of the summit, describing it as a crucial springboard towards a promising era of peace in southern Kaduna. Presenting a lead paper, Professor Suleiman Elias Ogoro, Executive Secretary Third Fund, says the time has come for the people to do it differently.
We as individuals must make our contributions, and when we come together, we can make a case to government as to what we need for them to help us sustain peace and development.
Religious leaders, including Imam Muhammad Ashafa and Reverend Gideon Paramalang of Interfaith Mediation Center, admonished the participants to deliberate with fear of God at heart. In Kaduna, Majama Adamu, NTA News.
In the meantime, the socio-economic, political and security challenges in the north-central zone of the country are bringing the people together to complement government's effort at addressing such issues. Momso Damian Lati was at the launch of the People's Forum in Abuja and now reports.
A convergence of delegates from Benue, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau and the FCT, places that make up the north-central zone.
This forum is not only desirable, it is timely.
Bury our personal, political, economical, whatever ambition.
They are here to inaugurate a united forum that will be devoid of political, religious, ethnic or partisan affiliations and work towards making the zone better.
Ensure that probable peace and stability is established and sustained within the zone.
When we talk about progress, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about developmental, and most importantly, we're talking about education too.
And see the people active in the development of the zone. And with cooperation, we have enormous resources to offer.
The forum is built on the premise of unity, peace and progress, in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Momso Damian Lati, NTA News.
Home away from home. You may call it perhaps the best way to capture the life of Ndibu, ethnic group resident in Jigawa State. Indeed, the place has become their second home because they are part and parcel of what is present-day Jigawa State, especially in peace building and socio-economic development. And Bashir Ibrahim Nababa takes up the story from here.
Mr. Christian Abo, an Igbo man and native of Iswazu local government area of Enugu State. The resilience and enterprising nature of the Igbo people runs in the veins of Chief Abo, who has ventured into different businesses in Dutse, the Jigawa State capital, for more than 32 years, 3 years older than the state itself. The prevailing peace and hospitable nature of the host community are among dozens of factors to have contributed to his success since the creation of the state 29 years ago.
All indigenous Nigerians residing in Jigawa still accept and are contented with what we are getting. Only pray for the sustenance of peaceful coexistence among us and our host.
To Magnus Abo, Jigawa is simply home away from home, as among them are the elderly who have spent more than 50 years in the state conducting their legitimate businesses without hindrance.
They have considered us as part of them. We are making profit in our businesses here in Jigawa State. We are making money here.
Therefore, the recent visit by the new leadership of the Igbo community to the Emir of Dutse, Alhaji Nuhu Muhammad Sanusi, at his palace is a demonstration of the decades-long culture of mutual respect and tolerance towards a better society.
It is one of the quiet places in the whole country. People should come and see what we are talking about. Perhaps most of the statements or opinions going on outside the shores of Jigawa State are coming from those that are not have not visited Jigawa per se.
From Dutse, Bashir Ibrahim Nababa, NTA News.
Well, thank you so much, Bashir. For the Indigbos in Jigawa State, it's a sure home away from home for what we've seen. Up ahead on News Extra, a sigh of relief by a people as a notorious gang leader falls, never to rise again. We have the soldiers with 4 legs, and I guess you're as curious as I am to meet them and know what makes them tick. See you when we return in just a moment. Welcome back to News Extra. The Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, has refuted allegations that the Kaduna gas pipeline project contract was inflated. The managing director of BPP, Mamman Ahmadu, says the NNPC followed due process, rejecting the analysis of the online medium as false and contrary to the true position of BPP's report on the subject. Lydia Sampson has the report.
The Public Procurement Act 2007 established the Bureau of Public Procurement as the regulatory authority responsible for the monitoring and oversight of public procurement, with the vision of building and sustaining an efficient country procurement system that meets international best practices. For NNPC, it is therefore critical for the allegation that the Kaduna gas pipeline project was inflated to the tune of $1.5 billion be verified and corrected to set the record straight. This formed part of the interface between the management of the BPP and the NNPC.
The publication is not reflective of what actually happened. And of course, we saw that they picked the information from somewhere else and used it in a manner that was meant to hurt what NNPC did.
The Group Managing Director NNPC, Mele Kolo Kiari, says scrutiny of public organization, though expected, must not be allowed to spearhead malicious misinformation. He reiterated that the AKK project underwent a transparent and open competitive tender process that resulted in the emergence of the most competitive bidders. This, he said, is in line with NNPC's resolve at ensuring transparency and accountability to the millions of Nigerians to whom the NNPC belongs.
As a principle, this company is now anchored around transparency and accountability. We have decided, consciously to become a partner company for the EITI. What that means is that, everything you're doing is open to public scrutiny. Everything that you need to tell the public, you must tell them on time. And not only that, you must completely do things that are beneficial for the common good.
Both organizations, after due consultations, resolved to continue to work seamlessly to fast-track procurement specifications. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
And a bit on security now. It is the end of the road for wanted Tewasi Agwaza, popularly known as Ghana, and some of his cohorts in notorious crimes, as 4 special forces military operations killed the suspect along Makudi-Boku Road in Benue State. At a press conference in Doma, Nasarawa State, Commander of the Forces, Major General Maude Gatsama, said Ghana was killed in a firefight. Achigili Magaji reports from Lafia.
Press conference, Major General Gatsama says the convoy of Tewasi Agwaza was intercepted along Boko Makudi Road by a detachment of Operation Ayamak Patima, where gunfire ensued, leading to the killing of Ghana.
Out ensued, and he was killed. In addition, 40 of Ghana's men have been captured in the operation and are currently under custody. They will soon be handed over to the civil authority for prosecutions.
Tewasi Agwaza alias Ghana has been on the wanted list of security operatives for terrorizing Benue, Taraba and Nasarawa states, leading to a bounty of 10 million naira placed on his head by the Benue state government in 2017. In Lafia, Achigili Magaji, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Benue State Governor Samuel Otom has confirmed the killing of the most wanted criminal, as we've seen, Ghana, by the 4 Special Forces Command of the Nigerian Army. The governor says that 5 out of those arrested with him have been released. And Charles Abba has the report.
Samuel Otom, who expressed dismay over the interception and eventual killing of Ghana, said
he put a call across to the commander of the 4th Special Forces Command, Brigadier General Maude Gazama, who confirmed that Ghana lost his life as a result of fire battle with security personnel.
I will be holding another security meeting to assess the situation because it was not my decision to grant this amnesty. First of all, it came from the people themselves, pleading that amnesty should be granted to these people. And I informed the Security Council, and they consented, they accepted. So, by the time I hear from the commandant of the Special Forces, I will now relay this to the Security Council, and I think we'll know the next step to take.
Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
And away from Makudi, do you know that among the rank and file of the Nigerian Air Force, there are those with 4 legs? Yes, 4 legs. Okay, I won't let you wonder for too long as the defense correspondent Najatu Tijani is here to explain.
It is about 6:30 this evening of Wednesday, 9th September 2020. And this is the last airline for today that has touched down at Kanu Ibiam International Airport. The first airline touched down at few minutes past 8 o'clock.
Well, we apologize for the mix-up in that film. We'll tend to bring you that report much later, but let's move on. We'll tend to bring you the report on the K9 that I earlier talked about. Now, to further strengthen its operational efficiency and improving on the welfare of personnel, the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, has inaugurated some projects at the 205 Combat and Rescue Group of the Nigerian Air Force Base, Karang, Plateau State. Priscilla Gurumnan reports.
5 years, the Nigerian Air Force has benefited from the developmental projects of the Chief of the Air Staff.
Plateau State is not an exception with the inauguration of this officers' mess at the Combat Search and Rescue Group, Kerang. The project inaugurated at the 205 Officers' Mess, accommodation for students and instructors, as well as inspection of ongoing structures such as school, hospital, and engineering wing of the Nigerian Air Force.
Most of these units are made up of special forces personnel that are properly trained, equipped, and have the skills to deal with the kind of internal security challenges that the nation is facing.
The establishment of the Special Operations Command and siting of the 205 Combat Search and Rescue Group in Plateau State, Governor Lalong says is evidence of the commitment of the federal government towards tackling insecurity in the country and providing security to its citizens.
I'm aware of these developments, deployments not only to Plateau State and other parts of the north, but to other parts of the country where such challenges exist.
He commended the visionary leadership of the Chief of the Air Staff for the development projects in Air Force formations across the country from the 205 NAV base in Kerang, Plateau State. Priscilla Grumnan, NTA News.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the notion that victims or potential victims of sexual harassment are architects of their fate, especially by their attitude, dressing, or willingness to be in a compromising place with their violators, is wrong and should be resisted in every situation. The Vice President at a webinar on anti-sexual harassment themed Finding Safe Spaces for Female Students in Nigerian Universities, organized by the Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife, said the victims must always be seen as the victims and not to be blamed. The Vice President said developing and adhering to a set of ethical codes of conduct for conversations and interactions involving lecturers and students in universities would greatly address the problem, adding that every institution must make it easy for victims or potential victims to report perpetrators to trusted formal structures or secure channels created specifically for the purpose of resolving such cases. In another development, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has underscored the synergy between the legislature and the executive in supporting policies and programs of the administration, especially those geared towards boosting the nation's economic base. The Vice President stated this at a virtual citizens' dialogue on the Green Imperative Project, a bilateral initiative between the federal government of Nigeria and the Brazilian government to develop Nigeria's agricultural production base through a mechanization program that is spread across the 774 local government areas in the country. And like some great women in the past who stood up against societal ills, the Medical Women Association and other civil society organizations in Cross River State have taken the campaign against kidnapping in Calabar to the palace of the Ogbong of Calabar and the Grand Patriarch of the Efik Kingdom, Edidem Ekpong Okon Abasi, Otu V. The campaign is to drum the support of traditional institutions to help stem the spate of abductions and restore the state of its peaceful status. Achibong Basi reports.
The capital of Cross River State, which was once known for its peace and aesthetics, is probably becoming a hub for kidnappers who commit their crimes and demand for ransoms before their victims are released. Barely a week after the release of a female medical doctor who was kidnapped, another female medical doctor has been abducted by the hoodlums.
There are women that are picked, people don't know, they don't have a voice. We are coming out to be the voice of the voiceless women.
We are worried because when a woman is taken, it's like the whole family is taken.
And so, in a bid to lend their voices to end this trend of terrorism, which women feel they are now the target for these perpetrators, this protest to the palace of the Ogbong of Calabar, Edidem Ekpo Okonobasio to the fifth, is to send a strong message to the monarch and the people of the land that this inhumane act should stop.
We are very much in order to come here and appeal to our royal fathers.
The Ogbong is working hard towards the solution of these things.
The women had earlier staged a walk to the office of the Cross River State Commissioner of Police and the government house in Calabar to ensure that the lives of women in Calabar and the state are secured. In Calabar, Achibombasi, NTA News.
And as part of efforts to stem the rising trend in the transnational crime of human trafficking, as well as to ensure that existing legal and institutional measures to protect individuals from the crime are adequately implemented, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has inaugurated a task force on human trafficking at the Lagos State Government House in Ikeja. Nosa Osula reports.
Trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery. It involves the illegal trade of people for exploitation or commercial gain, and according to the International Labour Organization, forced labor in the private economy generates $150 billion in illegal profits per year. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu charged members of the Lagos State Task Force on Human Trafficking to come up with brilliant ideas, innovations and policies that will assist the state government in curbing the menace.
The pandemic will be an easy excuse for some of the people to either get very lured into it very quickly, or they will claim that they needed that economic, independence for them to get into what they're doing. So this task force is more now than ever before important, and it's critical that we get it right all of the time.
The Director General of NAPTIP explained that the problem of human trafficking and irregular migration have become a great national concern, especially with the large number of Nigerians trapped in sexual and labor exploitation in various African and European countries, apart from the hundreds that continue to die in the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean Sea.
Last year, reports emerged about human farms in some parts of Libya, where black African migrants are allegedly kept in cages like animals, and organs like eyes, kidneys, and lungs are harvested to service the medical sectors of Europe.
Lagos State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, who is the chairman of the Task Force on Human Trafficking, assured Governor Sanwo-Olu and NAPTIP that his team will work tirelessly to fight the menace and ensure that people feel the impact of the task force in the states. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari warmly felicitates with the Owele of Ichida, Gilbert Chikielu, on his 90th birthday. President Buhari recognizes Owele Chikelu's significant contributions in different fields of endeavor to Nigeria's development, especially his devotion to duty as an economist, administrator, Federal Permanent Secretary of over 10 years, and Minister of the Federal Republic. The President commends the elder statesman and community leader for leading his community with dignity, wisdom, and respect for constituted authority, praying God Almighty to grant him good health and joy for many more years. More messages of best wishes continue to pour in for Owele Gilbert Chikelu, father of Chukwuemeka Chikelu, one-time Minister of Information during the Obasanjo administration. Abubakar Usman Akwanga compiled the birthday greetings.
And an accomplished public servant, played prominent and significant role in the formulation and implementation of 4 national development plans, establishment of Economic Community of West African States, establishment of National Directorate of Employment, and the reorganization of the NNPC, of which he was appointed chairman in 1992. In recognition of his many landmarks of his public service career, birthday wishes poured in for Owele Chikelu.
Happy congratulations and many happier returns. It is our wish that God gives you continued good health and guidance so that you can continue to help humanity.
I want to wish Daddy a very, very happy birthday with long life, good health, and God's continued blessings.
My earnest prayers is that I grant you more healthy and happy years.
Apart from being an icon in the public service, Owele Chikelu also remained an excellent father.
In a message, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Gida Mustafa, described Owele Gilbert Chikelu as a real Nigerian whose track records in public service will remain a rallying point for upcoming administrators, and wished him a peaceful and healthy life as he attains 90. Similarly, the Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mele Kyari, said the ascension of Owele Gilbert Chikelu to the age of 90 is a blessing to the petroleum industry, considering the solid foundation he laid as chairman of the corporation, which remains a springboard for the growth and development of the sector. Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, on behalf of the workforce, also felicitated with the elder statesman at 90 and prayed for more strength and wisdom in offering wise counseling for good governance and unity of the country. He rejoiced with the former Minister of Information, Chukwuemeka Chikelu. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
We take another time out at this point to return with trending stories around health, progress of work on the Riga-Chicken Bridge, and the good and bad happenings around the rainy season. Stay with us. Thanks so much for staying. Oxford University vaccine trial put on hold as test case falls ill. These and more with Uche Uguchukwu on the update on global coronavirus pandemic.
Final clinical trials for a coronavirus vaccine developed by the Oxford University and partner have been put on hold after a participant had a suspected adverse reaction in the UK. The outcome of vaccine trials is being closely watched around the world. Hopes have been high that the vaccine might be one of the first to come in the market following successful phases 1 and 2 testing. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has confirmed that more than 159 people have tested positive for COVID-19. This takes the total number of positive cases in Scotland to 21,878. In an effort to curtail spread of infection on campus, the University of Cambridge says it will offer students living in college accommodation a weekly coronavirus test, even if they show no symptoms. It says the program will be voluntary, but it expects most students to participate. Meanwhile, Angolan authorities have agreed to reopen schools in October after more restrictions were enforced. Schools in the country were closed in March after the country recorded its first case of COVID-19. The Coronavirus in Africa tracker shows there are 231,498 active cases and 31,749 fatalities on the continent, and the 296 new cases of COVID-19 reported by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control puts the country's total figure of confirmed infections at 55,456, and 1,067 patients lost their lives. The world, as at 6 p.m. local time, has recorded 27,942,541 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 903,885 deaths, according to statistics on the Worldometer Coronavirus Dashboard. That's Wednesday's Global Update on COVID-19. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
The National Association of Resident Doctors may call off its strike tomorrow after a consultation between the leadership and its Executive Council following a meeting with the federal government delegation led by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige. The minister, who briefed the media after the meeting, said most of the issues that led to the strike have been resolved, while those requiring the attention of state government will be brought to the notice.
So this one, we are going to start in next week, because it's not only you that will take hazard allowance. Hopefully next week, after treatment with your issue, I'm hoping that they don't try to emulate you and say they are going on morning strike. They say that if they don't get this, that, they go on morning strike on Monday. You know, if they go on morning strike, again, the atmosphere for discussion is already found. So we call on them and beg them not to go on any strike so that we can meet next week and start off. We try to engage the states regarding the need to try and do this for the good of us all. But the states, they also have resources limited, and which they are in the best position to determine where their resources will go.
The national president of NARD described the strike as unfortunate but necessary.
Our doctors on give means and other interns are the only set of workers in Nigeria that their minimum wage has not been paid.
At the height of the coronavirus pandemic, the transportation sector was grounded as a necessary measure for containing the virus. This development adversely affected socio-economic activities globally, but with the opening of the airways in Nigeria, the subsector is gradually taking shape. Amaka Owo in this report examines the aviation industry under the new normal.
Tranquility was the ambience at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, one of Africa's busiest airports, for more than 3 months, with the airspace totally grounded due to the COVID-19 lockdown. The situation reaffirmed the importance of transportation to economic vibrancy.
Nigerian Airlines lost almost $1 billion in revenue, as well as an additional $800 million, which these airlines would have been able to remit as charges to the federal government which will have increased our GDP by 800 million.
A lot of events are now done virtually, from trade shows to concerts to even purely ceremonial events. So you find that business travel, which is the primary income earner for the aviation industry, is going to be redefined at a much lower level than we have seen in the past.
As the dark cloud fades off, the airwaves are becoming active with flight operations ongoing at the domestic services since the 8th of July. The dynamics associated with trade and investment in Nigeria's commercial hub, Lagos, is invariably being restored.
With the opening of the airspace now, people will begin to move. As people are moving, goods and services will begin to move. And most importantly, before the opening of the international passengers route, the ticket fare were expensive. The cost of moving goods were also very expensive. Now you expect those things to drop. And once they drop, they're going to stimulate more travel.
Most of them do their repairs outside. Will the CBN be able to give them we will have the exchange rate volatility challenges now. Will the CBN be able to make forex available for them if they have to do maintenance? Those are part of the things that the government needs to intervene in that sector. A direct intervention in terms of cash injection.
Experts say the aviation industry might be experiencing a slow start, never before seen. However, the commencement of international flights will give a rapid push to the resuscitation of the global dwindling economy. Will the aviation sector in Nigeria ever experience an influx of as much as 8.5 million travelers or more in local and international flights subsequently, as it did in the first 6 months of 2019? Only time will tell. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
After months of closure due to the coronavirus pandemic, local air travels have resumed at the Akanu-Ibiam International Airport, Enugu. Chinenye Nwoye reports that air travelers have once again commended the federal government for reopening the airport, saying it has brought a sigh of relief to the people of the southeast.
It is about 6:30 this evening of Wednesday, 9th September 2020, and this is the last airline for today that has touched down at Akanu-Ibiam International Airport. The first airline touched down at few minutes past 8 o'clock this morning with an initial expectation of having 3 local flights operations daily to Lagos and Abuja. It was a cautious first day for southeastern travelers to use this airport that has been shut down for over a year for the runway rehabilitation. Passengers were welcomed to the boarding terminal with signs of COVID-19 space markings, having their face mask on, with their hands sanitized before gaining access to the airport. Some residents of Enugu who have boarded this flight are excited to fly from Akanu-Ibiam International Airport.
I took off from Owerri. As you can see, I'm now in Enugu, and it's very smooth. The runway is fantastic.
So far, so good. They did so well, and we really appreciate.
I'm very, very glad that they have started operations.
The federal government completed the rehabilitation work on the Akanu-Ibiam International Airport and reopened it for operations after 1 year. From the Akanu-Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, Chinenye Nwoye, NTA News.
In the meantime, the resumption of airline operations after 5 months of COVID-19 shutdown is gradually unlocking the huge economic potentials in the nation's aviation industry and reviving the social benefits inherent in the sector under the new normal. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that guests on NTA's Current Affairs program, Tuesday Live, expressed optimism on some of the practical measures taken by key players in the industry to entrench a new era of steady economic recovery and growth plan in the sector.
Shutdown of airline operations to contain spread of the ravaging coronavirus pandemic no doubt incurred huge losses to the aviation industry globally, with prevailing consequences on domestic economy and growth of foreign investment profile. These critical players in the industry say effective collaboration and strict implementation of post-COVID-19 policy frameworks and strategies will serve as immediate and long-term measures in reviving the sector.
The more aircraft in the air, the more fund is making money, the more NTA is making money, the more NAMA is making money, the more the industry is booming. And that is where fund can get money to develop the sector.
Aviation is very critical to everything the country stands for. In terms of economic growth, job creation, every major element of economic growth is tied to aviation.
Guests say sustainable efforts in repositioning Nigerian airports and the resumption of international flights will open a new vista for increased commercial activities and improved gross domestic product.
The last few weeks has been very good. No negative reports from any of our airports, and the protocols are working very fine. We just keep monitoring. We have an enforcement department working around the terminals, but we don't seem to be getting any negative results of recent.
And we are trying to see how we can use legislation to support the industry so that the industry will be free for everybody, especially the middle class, because the middle class drives the economy.
As conversations continue to flourish on the future of the industry after the resumption of operations, stakeholders remain focused that the national aviation sector will witness more gains than it has lost in the last few months. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Thank you, Abubakar. It is work in progress on Rigachikum Bridge along Kaduna Zaria Highway. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that the project managers have concentrated on refilling the transition base of the bridge, which first caved in about 2 weeks ago.
It would be recalled that a couple of hours after reopening the Rigachikum Bridge following remedial works, the transition base caved in again. This sent a signal to the engineers that they are dealing with a case that deserves more than the usual. So they teamed up and concentrated their energy on fixing the troublesome transition base, which has now become a bitter pill. With a total excavation of the wet soil, boulders and concrete were brought in and gradually been laid to form a new formidable base.
What we are doing now is to go to the bottom of the deck of the abutment, beneath it, beside the embankment there. We want to build it from the base. We are using boulders so that we stabilize it, so that by the time we do it, any vehicle passing, there will be no extra that will cause any settlement again.
But that is also at the expense of the alternative bridge, which is also in dire need of attention. Its two transition bases are threatened, especially as it now carries the load of traffic plying the highway in and out of the city of Kaduna. The good news, however, is that a permanent solution awaits the two bridges.
You may not appreciate the magnitude of threat to this bridge until you find your way under it. A part of it, which looks like its stabilizer, has already given way. But in the words of the federal controller here in Kaduna, a permanent solution is coming soon. That is reassuring. In Kaduna, Abdullah Muhammad, NTA News.
Sure, that statement is reassuring. Now, it seems we take water for granted and we are paying the price. People of Patigi in Kwara State are the latest victims of water as ravaging floods have destroyed more than 100,000 hectares of rice, maize and millet farms, with over 3,000 residential buildings also submerged by the flood, rendering homeless a great number of people, including women and children. Kende Omolosho reports.
It's not a strange disaster in Patigi, but this time it came like a thief in the night, entering every house, drowning people and taking away their belongings. The flood also submerged schools, hospitals and other infrastructure found on its way, including electric poles and pipe-borne water schemes. I'm at the bank of the River Niger, where residents can be seen relocating from where the floods have devastated their residents to the mainland.
But 3,000 buildings have been affected.
in the entire riverine side. It has increased their poverty level.
This used to be a farmland, but has now been taken over by waters from the river Niger. The flood is so devastating to the extent at which residents have lost valuables worth millions of naira. Baradogi, a settlement 3 kilometers away from Patigi, is submerged in the wicked flood. It has wreaked no less havoc on over 100 communities like this. Mohammed Issa is married with 2 wives and 13 children. He has lost all his means of livelihood to the disaster.
Our farm and houses and many things, floods destroy it.
The water is really a big problem for us. The water has affected our houses. All we need now is shelter. We want government to assist us with a permanent shelter. Government should relocate us to better place.
Though no life was lost to the flooding, the people's immediate need is pipe-borne water. They are calling on government to assist in relocating them to another place and dredging of the river, sourcing the flood to prevent future occurrence. Kehinde Omolosho, NTA News.
A very unfortunate one there from Patigi. Now, the recent federal government ban on importation of maize to Nigeria to allow for increased cultivation and patronage is not only applauded by agricultural stakeholders, but has attracted calls by farmers for all tiers of government to support farmers for higher level of maize cultivation. Charity James reports.
It's one of the staple foods in Nigeria and the 4th most consumed cereals within the past decades. With rising demand for domestic and industrial consumption, this cereal is also grown to be cash in food crop. Research has shown that Nigeria is the largest producer of maize in Africa, with over 33 million tons and 11th largest maize producer in the world. Investigation has also proven that Nigeria imported over 400,000 tons of maize in 2018 and 2019. Despite being Africa's largest producer of maize, Nigeria was still involved in importation of maize, in which the federal government placed a ban. The policy the people describe as a welcome development that will encourage local maize production.
We have a good effect here in Abuja State because farmers will be encouraged.
What the federal government has done is a very good step in the right direction.
It's a good one because it's going to make more people think of planting maize.
Considering the numerous challenges of farming, including maize cultivation, how is Akwa Ibom State keying into the policy of ban on maize importation?
We have done awareness, not just awareness, the state government has supported farmers. Recently, we gave about 1,000 farmers interest-free loan, maize farmers specifically interest-free loan, so that they can cultivate maize.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to release 5,000 tons of grains of maize from the National Strategic Grains Reserve to poultry farms at a subsidized rate. In Uyo, Charity James, NTA News.
The federal government is working towards expanding its agricultural value chain development program by forging a new partnership with Ogun State. The move is expected to further harness the state's agricultural potentials. In view of this, the Marketing Enterprises Development Advisor of the IFAD Value Chain Development Program, Hajia Fatima Buhari, who is in Ogun State, visited the governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, in Abeokuta. Lekon Ambodi reports.
The government promised not to renege in its determination towards diversification of the economy by making agriculture pivotal. This stern determination informed collaboration with state governments, encouraging them to explore areas of comparative advantage with IFAD and Value Chain Development Program. Rice and cassava were the agricultural products of focus in Ogun State. The Marketing Enterprising Development Advisor of the program, Hajia Fatima Mukhtar Buhari, was on tour of Ogun State as one of the participating states. At the office of the Ogun State Governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, she was received by the Deputy Governor, Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele. The advisor was impressed with the commitment of Ogun State in counterpart funding.
You're putting support to the VCDP, you're adding much value to it to help us achieve what we want to achieve. But we want a continuous release of counterpart funds in order to help us or to encourage the VCDP. As you know, it's an international fund.
The Deputy Governor further reiterated the determination of the state government to explore all programs that will enhance the economy through agriculture.
Over 12,000 farmers who are participating in this program, and they're cultivating about 7,000 hectares in total for cassava and for rice.
Some local government areas are in the program, including Ifo, Obafemi Owode, Ijebu Northeast, Odogbolu, and Odeda local government areas. In Abeokuta, Lekon Agbonde, NTA News.
It is good news for Nigerian pensioners, as the Executive Secretary of Pension Transitional Arrangements Directorate, Chioma Ajikeme, has promised to settle all arrears of gratuity and pension before the end of the year. She made the promise at an interactive session to mark her 1 year in office in Abuja. And Benny Adams has that.
Before the Pension Reform Act of 2014, which triggered the contributory pension scheme, there was a preponderance of non-payment of gratuity, pension arrears, and improper placement. There was also the issue of Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate inheriting more than 44 billion naira worth of liability without assets from defunct agencies, with some pensioners owed up to 200 months. A huge burden, Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, however, says it will use all instruments of the law to recover and settle those being owed.
I will probably take all of them until they bring your money. But Mr. President has been paying you people from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. You have pension assets. So we continue to ask that you bear with us.
The pat on the back is in appreciation for government keeping faith with prompt payment of monthly pensions in spite of prevailing circumstances, and a reward for a job well done, they say, is more work.
I have declared a state of emergency for the Civil Service Pension Department. And the mandate is that before the end of 2020, I don't want to hear that anybody is being owed gratuity. Before the end of 2020, I don't want to hear that anybody is being owed pension arrears.
It is an era where relevant technologies have helped in ensuring better efficiency in sundry areas, like verifying ghost workers who transited to pensioners. The management says more reforms are underway to ensure senior citizens live better lives after service. Benny Adams, NTA News.
And now we'll take you back to our earlier story by defense correspondent Najat Tijani.
Animal labor has been employed for centuries, especially on farms. However, the Nigerian military has a group of four-legged servicemen who are every bit as essential as their two-legged counterparts. In the Nigerian Air Force, these aircraft men and women, as they are called by their ranks, are always a crowd favorite during ceremonies. Many know of the K9 unit in the Nigerian Police Force, so why the need for the Nigerian Air Force to have one? Air Commodore Ahmed Bakari is the Air Provost Marshal, head of the law-keeping arm of the Nigerian Air Force and K9 unit.
The current administration has put combat search and rescue at the fore, and of course we know that these dogs equally have the capacity to track. That is why we went into the acquisition of the special operations dogs, and the Chief of Air Staff is equally looking into how we are going to get 20 additional
special operations dog to expand our combat search and rescue capability. So in a nutshell, these are just some of the reasons that have pushed for the need for us to have canines.
These hard-working personnel earn full salary and are valuable assets in the war front. Their unique sense of smell, quickness and good sight combine to make them formidable on the battlefield. I met Amo, one of such formidable forces, during NAF simulation exercise Buje Eku in Ikpetu Ijesha in December 2019.
He played a very important role, and this is a synergistic part of this exercise where both the K9 unit and the special forces work together with ground troops to ensure victory and safety of Nigerians.
As Amo and his counterparts show, military might comes in furry four-legged packages.
A beautiful one, I must say, Najatu. So interesting. So far, so good. In our next segment, history and culture. Upswing as correspondent takes us on a journey to a town that has a monument that symbolizes its bravery against the colonial master. News Extra returns shortly. Great to have you back. The victims of slavery in St. Dominic in 1791 are honored annually, and key players use the occasion to remind the global community of the dangers posed by ongoing contemporary slavery in many parts of the world. Joy Ken Agbabuya reports that the voice of the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, CBAC in Lagos, was loud and clear that relevant laws must be fully implemented to discourage this new form of enslavement in Africa.
Years after its abolition, enslavement of people is still being practiced around the world, and most of the victims are Black Africans.
Different sources reveal that over 40 million people are in some form of slavery or the other.
Guest lecturer, head Department of History of Bafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Adetunji Ogunyemi, who spoke on the causes, forms, and consequences of contemporary enslavement, said the value put on human trafficking is not less than $150 billion.
It has become the duty of sovereign states to ensure that their citizens are not enslaved. In Nigeria, for example, there is a law, a federal law, which outlaws trafficking in persons.
It is for this reason that CBAC has mobilized and sought the participation of the youth in this webinar to create the more needed awareness among the youth.
Other speakers call for deliberate efforts and interventions by government to reduce the risks youths face in the search of the golden fleece abroad.
We can solve it from home, from the religious angle, to which is very, 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 very serious.
The 23rd of August every year is set aside by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, to remind the world about the tragedy of the slave trade and the urgency to end the modern-day version. In Lagos, Joy Ken Agbabuya, NTA News.
President of the World Craft Council and Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture, Otumba Segun Ronshewe, has advised industry players and investors in the culture and tourism economy to be wary of scammers and fraudsters masquerading as government-licensed consultants and financial consortium with powers to provide post-COVID-19 palliatives and sundry investment titles for a fee. Otumba Ronshewe said the sophisticated scammers present well-articulated proposals, parade fictitious and forged references backed by mouth-watering financial intervention to deceive unsuspecting individuals and agencies. He enjoined practitioners and state governments to carry out due diligence by reaching out to the Federal Government Implementation Committee on the creative industry and relevant security agencies before taking steps on prospects for cultural tourism, financial aid and waivers. You know, COVID-19 has turned every Buddy's life around. Here in Nigeria, it has taken us back to our roots in the way we eat and do things. So it is not surprising that the National Institute for Cultural Orientation, through its mandate of promoting the interest of Nigerians in the use of indigenous languages and national development, has engaged officers of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in a language in the barracks program. This is to enhance their professional efficiency and social integration. And Gufan Shaji has the report.
On the walls of our school, that speaking of vernacular is prohibited.
As concerns are raised in the social-linguistic circles over the extinction of languages, the National Institute for Cultural Orientation is responding to this challenge through such programs like this one, The Language in the Barracks, an initiative the Executive Secretary Ado Muhammad Yahuza says will help officers of the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps promote interactions in their host communities as well as boost intelligence gathering.
Language is a career of value and culture. You know, once you ignore it, then it will die.
This program, especially for those that will post it to where they don't understand the language, will help us in intelligence gathering. It will assist our men in the discharge of their duties.
The 2 months Language in the Barracks program will engage officers of the Corps in learning the 3 major Nigerian languages. In Abuja, Gufan Shaji, NTA News.
We'll take one more break, which is also the last.
Hereby announced of Dr. Samuel Anefu-Ede. He lived 68 years. He is survived by family and relations. Burial arrangements are as follows. 10 September 2020, service of songs at his residence, number 5 Ede Ogbole Street, before Base Mail Fuel Station, Modern Market Road, Makodi, Benue State. Time 4 p.m. 11 September, wake at his hometown, Nwaba, Eokpa Ugboju, Otukpo Local Government Area, Benue State. 12 September 2020, final interment at his compound at Nwaba, Eokpa Ugboju, Otukpo Local Government Area of Benue State. Time 10 a.m. May his gentle soul rest in peace. Signed, Professor Peter Adakai, for the family.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at how the weather will look like tomorrow, Thursday. All the weather forecasts now ends News Extra for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I am Fatima Umar Buba. Do stay safe.